princesses! Today I'm going to be talking about NARS Sheer Glow in the shade Siberia. I've had this foundation for about 2 years now and I've always really struggled with it, so now after 2 years I am here to do the review for it. The product description says, a glowy, natural, radiant finish foundation with sheer and buildable coverage that immaculately evens skin tone. Replete with skincare benefits and the NARS complexion brightening formula, it leaves skin hydrated, more luminous, softer and smoother. Used daily, Sheer Glow foundation improves the skin's brightness and texture. This is for normal, normal to dry and dry skin types. It also contains powerful antioxidants to protect against damaging free radicals and turmeric extract to improve skin's radiance and tone. I have the shade Light 1 Siberia, which is supposed to be light with a neutral balance of yellow and pink undertones. This foundation comes packaged in an elegant glass bottle and does not come with a pump, though you can purchase the pump separately. I really recommend grabbing the pump because it's so much more convenient. I have the shade Siberia, and even though NARS says it's a neutral balance of pink and yellow undertones, I find it very yellow, which is great for my skin. It has a thin runny texture and it's quite easy to spread out on the skin. I find that this does oxidize a tiny amount for my skin, but not enough for it to be a big deal for me. I prefer not to use a primer with this foundation because I found that it just kind of messes with the application and longevity of the foundation. I especially don't use silicone-based primers since this is a water-based foundation, they really don't mix well. I like to apply this foundation with a damp beauty blender or my Etude House Air Puff rather than fingers or brushes. I found that by using my fingers, it literally just took me forever to blend out evenly and brushes left my skin looking really streaky. This foundation has light to medium coverage and is supposed to be buildable, but I can never build a foundation to a nice finish. It always looks so cakey, so I choose to use a separate concealer if I want more coverage instead. At the moment it covers all of my scarring quite well, but if you have proper acne, this will only give you a very light coverage. With my current skin, it lasts quite well because it's not breaking down due to the oil. After about 6 hours, my skin does look quite glowy, but it's not super oily. This foundation does not last well on oily skin at all. Generally, my skin is oily through the T-zone, but at the moment, since I'm taking Orotane, my skin produces much less oil. However, for the first year that I used this product, I did have very oily skin, and I found that it made my skin really oily through the T-zone, and it would break up really badly around my nose and my chin. But at the moment with my non-oily skin, it is quite nice. It is still a pain in the butt to blend sometimes, like today's application was just not happening for me. I'm not sure why. I think it's probably because I changed my moisturizer, but you know, sometimes it's really good and sometimes it's really not good. And I actually find that really frustrating because it's a really expensive foundation and I just want it to work well and be easy. But the shade Siberia is a really good colour match for my skin. It looks a little bit lighter on camera than the rest of my body, but in real life it actually matches perfectly. I think it's definitely yellow tone rather than a balance of pink and yellow, and I have had quite a few people complain that on their pinker skin it looks really yellow, and so I'm not sure why they said it's neutral because I definitely think it's yellow. So for this foundation, it really is sort of like a 50-50 for me because when it applies well, it does look really good, but when it doesn't apply well, it doesn't look good at all. I think for me, the amount of money I spent on it as well is a factor in why I feel so 50-50 about it because it's almost about 90 New Zealand dollars and it was recommended for me by the staff members where I bought it from, and I really don't feel like they should have recommended it to someone who has oily skin because it is specifically for normal to dry skin. And obviously since it works quite well on my skin when it is drier from the acne medication, I do support the claim that it is for normal to dry skin, and if you have oily skin, I just wouldn't buy this. I just wish it was easy because it's such a good colour for my skin. So for this foundation, I really love that Siberia is a perfect match for my skin, which is pretty hard to match, and it comes in really lovely packaging. I highly recommend getting the pump because it's much more hygienic and convenient. It works well for non-oily skin and it gives a really lovely light to medium coverage. In the sort of neutral category for this one, it's sometimes really easy to apply and it looks beautiful, and sometimes it's a real pain in the butt to apply and doesn't look good. So I can't really say that I love that it applies well, because sometimes it doesn't apply well and then that would be lying. I do not love that you have to buy the pumps separately, which they did change for the new foundations, and that it is awful on oily skin, and generally it can just be a pain in the butt. So although I really hated it for the first year that I had this foundation, I actually quite enjoy it when it applies well with my normal to dry skin. It is the perfect colour for my skin. I personally think that it's very warm toned, it's not neutral at all for me, so I'm not sure why they call it neutral when I think everyone thinks it's yellow toned. I would recommend Sheer Glow in Siberia for any princesses who have very light yellow toned skin and want a light to medium coverage foundation. However, I would definitely not recommend this foundation for anyone who has oily skin, because it's so annoying, like you would not believe. I struggled with it for a year. I almost threw it out because I was just like, I can't be bothered, and now it works really nicely. I think I got a little bit angry in this video because I spent so much money on it and I just kind of hated it for a while. But that's what happens when you don't research your products. Thank you so much for watching this review, and I'll see you next time.